It's the season of Portal Combat. We're going to talk about some of the players that the Badgers lost, maybe some positions they need to hit. We have a great guest. Get your questions ready for Nick Osen. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network. And thank you for helping us make it that. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your live NFL bets all season long. We're bringing that dude on. We got Nick Osen, 247 Sports, great friend of the show, great friend just in general, right? Like, we developed that good friendship off of this, which is amazing. And I know he's friends with a lot of people in the community. Nick, we are taking questions. We're talking some hoops, portal losses, potential portal additions. Let's get into it. I think the biggest question I've gotten, and I hit this on a previous show, Nick, this is kind of the bad news period of the portal. I know Badger fans are frustrated, and we're seeing a Eugene Hilton and a Dylan Jones. The good news will come later, but this is kind of the part where you see a lot of the people leaving. What did you make of kind of the newest additions to that portal loss list, however you'd call it, Eugene Hilton, Dylan Jones?
Yeah, Ryan, it's so good to be back on with you, man. Obviously, we were looking forward to this around Christmas time. I appreciate you, brother. So, yeah, first and foremost, I don't mean to, I know people love to say I'm overly optimistic with things and such. This is just the way that it goes in terms of when the news can happen, right? Because the portal is not even officially open. So obviously, that's not necessarily going to be publicly talked about so far. But I think in terms of losses, look, let's be honest. Some of those early names, especially, they weren't going to have roles here. They probably weren't going to ever, certainly not in a win now season. But like you said, Ryan, a couple of those recent names, I think that Hilton is one that we had all kind of heard maybe buzzing, right? But you were kind of hoping, okay, Wisconsin doesn't want to lose him. You'll see what happens. That one's unfortunate because he obviously is ready to play. And then Dylan Jones, I'm not sure you can say you're shocked about anybody these days, right? I mean, maybe the inside linebackers would have been a shell-shocking thing. Obviously, they will be back, as we've talked about before. But Jones surprised me a little bit because he's got a great relationship with Spalding. Like, from my understanding, he liked it here. Obviously, has had opportunities, clear-cut roles. Did I expect the whole room to be back? No, but obviously you don't get Latimer, right? And then Yakimelli's going elsewhere. I thought there may be a chance for that whole class of 2024. You got to see how Ituka even, kind of responds. Obviously, what happened at Indiana, his really tough injury. I would say those two were, kind of tough blows, Ryan. And then obviously the tough part about having two young studs at inside linebacker and Post and Catalano, obviously about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, you lost Christian Allegro. And he is somebody that the staff would have loved to have all three of those guys at that spot, Ryan.
Yeah, let me put this comment up, and then I want to hit on a few things here. I think this is a really good comment, and I want your take on it. This is from Northwoods. He says, are we making too big of a deal with the portal losses? Every team every year is going to lose young, untapped guys. They don't want to. Is this just the new norm where every year you're going to lose, I don't know, 5 to 10 guys where you hate seeing them go?
Yeah, I think Northwoods, by the way, always has some great questions on your show. I think, to be quite honest, at least in my spaces and even reading in yours, Ryan, I think people have actually been fairly level-headed. I don't think, at least from the people I've seen, it is too big of a deal because you don't want fans to lose their mind every time somebody's leaving, right? But you also, I don't think, want it to just be like fully, on to the next one, because that shows they're not caring about high school recruiting. They're not caring about getting these guys in. Hey, how can we see these guys develop? So I always think there's a bottom line. And obviously, one of the best parts about my job, your job, Ryan, on here and in the Discord, several others, like guys on my board and others that have message boards, you get a direct link to the obvious fan base, right? And you get to know how they feel. So I just think, I mean, if things were stacking up, man, where a lot of these young guys that we just saw with kind of our clear eyes, it was basically every big name that had chances. Yeah, I would think that is a huge deal. But from what we've seen so far, I think it's fair to be like a little disappointed, but knowing, and I see a great comment here too, you lost a lot of older players. We know 2026 is a win now type of year, obviously, Ryan. So they're going to play older guys at certain spots too. And that's why, obviously, here in a couple minutes, we'll talk about some of the potential portal additions in terms of numbers and just why it is such a big offseason.
I think it's really well said. I will say for me, the worrisome part is next year you hit it, man. You hit it perfectly well. It's a massive season for Luke Fickell. No surprise there. They have to win. And now you're going to have to do it with an offense where you're probably going to need 7 new starters. I'm just ballparking here.
Mhm.
And because you think quarterback, maybe running back now, a couple receivers, maybe a couple offensive linemen, maybe a tight end, although I think we both like some of the young pieces there. But either way,
Mhm.
I think it's hard to, in an offseason, in a season where you need to win, mesh, we'll say 6 to 8 new bodies on that offensive side. Like, what's your worry level there? Because to me, that's the biggest concern. I think they're going to get dudes. Can they get it all figured
Yeah.
out before the season starts?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that you're going to really need to just kind of knock on wood a little bit, rely on some better health first and foremost, because you can't have a season where you're seeing so many injuries, and that is not taking any of the faults, blame, anything like that on people from before. That's just saying that was tough luck. But Ryan, you're exactly right, and frankly, that number that you said, 6 or 7, I think was a great number. I wouldn't be shocked if it's even 1 or 2 higher, right?
Mhm.
Because I think that, quarterback, very good chance. Receivers, you lost almost everybody. Tight ends, we are high on those young guys, as is the staff, as is the program. So that's not like an anomaly. But hey, I mean, obviously Lance Mason, there was the ESPN report about a week ago. A couple guys are trying to get one more year. I think he would certainly be welcomed back as the guy if he got that eligibility. O line, we were very fortunate to be able to speak with Coach Mateos for a little bit. I think that there's going to be a young guy or two, but I also think that there's going to try to be some older guys in that mix in a physical, grueling Big Ten. The schedule opens up a little bit, but obviously everybody's working to retool their rosters. So I think you're exactly right. And I think that you also, looking on the back end of the defense, you're kind of getting new starters everywhere too. So it is going to be a really, really new look team. I'm really intrigued to see how some of the young guys rise up in their leadership. Like, I know those young linebackers have been looked at as leaders already. They're going to have to be ready to not just anchor that team on the field, but even in the locker room. And some of those returners, you see what happens with a Joe Brunner, right? Or a Tuca, or, Kevin Haywood, some of these guys on offense. It'll be really intriguing to see going forward.
Can I ask you personally? Very few people, in my opinion, and I mean this quite honestly, do a better job of building personal relationships with people and players and coaches than you do. You go to high school games, you put a lot of miles on the old car. I know this for a fact. What is what is this new era of covering called as a reporter like for you, as someone who really builds those relationships?
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. I'm not sure I've ever gotten that question. And, I'll give a quick nod. We will be back on the road this weekend watching high school basketball, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But in all sincerity, Ryan, it hasn't dampened the kind of the love and the passion, because I'm so grateful for this job and to be covering, obviously, the program I went to and everything. But it does make some of that stuff a little bit less maybe fulfilling, and you don't get to kind of see the process through as much as you'd like. Like, just as I was getting to the point where some of the guys I really got close with or cool with, whatever, their families at Iowa State, I got the chance to come here, and then it was like you're starting all new. Now I'm pretty fortunate. A couple guys that I've really gotten to see a lot in person are two of the biggest stars in the team at this point, right? Catalano and Posa. Obviously, we did the New Mexico trip and everything, but as a whole, I think if it continues to go like this every year, and that's not a Badgers thing, that's a college
Mhm.
football thing, it'll really dampen things for me. But I don't necessarily think it's going to be the case. I think people are getting pretty fed up throughout, whether we're talking about fans or people in the industry, coaching. And so I would think it settles down. What are we, 2025, about to be 26, maybe by 28 or so? I do believe that. I also think Wisconsin is going to certainly at least try to do a great job at rebuilding with retention and bringing those guys back, as they did right away. I just keep going back to the linebackers as some of those examples. There are several other guys where I feel pretty good in those young classes, but Obviously, you don't want to speak, with certainty in this day and age. But it's a really good question, Ryan. I feel like I'm always going to be that way because I like the relationships, the people aspect just about as much as the sports. Because you can always sit at home and watch great sports, play sports, video games, but to get the chances to know these guys and families and coaches is a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah, that's well said. We're going to take a quick second there. And you're right. Posa and Catalano are massive retention wins. Like those are big, big time retention wins. And I guarantee you, there were a lot of schools that were eager to try out calling a Mason Posa or Cooper Catalano. We just know these things. Those are big retention wins for the Badgers. We're going to take a second here, take a break for our friends of the show, come back and talk about big portal needs, the biggest positions his Badgers need to hit, and maybe a quarterback we've talked about on this show. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers, plus your questions. If you have any, throw them in the chat. Coming up next, but first, a quick second for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. A quick second to say thank you for tuning into Locked On Badgers. Thank you for being a part of this community. It is really, really appreciated. And the NFL season moves quickly. It moves really quickly. We're almost already to the playoffs, which is crazy. FanDuel gets you in the middle of those moments. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, the defense tightens up, the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into those moments. Player props adjust as players heat up or cool down. Live spreads, money lines go up or down as you are in those moments, in those those pivotal moments in games where things flip. FanDuel lets you get inside those moments with live bets. Bet the next touchdown, the drive result, totals, and more. Keep you locked into every snap, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and now so can you. Let's get Mr. Olsen back on. Nick, let me ask you this. 247. I think we talk about every time you're on the show because it's worth talking about. What are some new things you guys got going on there? Some new stories, some new angles. What's going on with 247?
Yeah, Ryan, I appreciate you, man. First and foremost, we've got a 50% off deal. So if there are people, and you know how grateful I am, because I know that people have kind of seen what I do on this amazing show with you and our other friends. So there is a promo right now. Some of the great things we've got going, because there's this lull a little bit, right? But the content hasn't slowed down. Now, I would say Payne, I want to give a shout out to my team first. Payne is doing an awesome job at just kind of looking at more reflective things, longer form pieces, features, a lot of team coverage right there. I'm getting on the road, like I mentioned. John's getting on the road. He has had some really, really good nuggets. I think we're kind of working together on that. But with the portal, that has been active every day. So active that we had to start a new thread for it on Christmas Eve just to kind of slow things down a little bit and be more organized. And then I've got some, pretty cool basketball road trips in the works as well. So I would say those are a few things. Every single day, if there are fan questions on there, my goal is always to respond within 10 to 20 minutes. So you get quick responses. It's a great community as well.
Dude, I love it. And I encourage everybody to go check it out. I'm a member of that board. They're awesome. The entire team is phenomenal. Let's go quarterback, Nick. So we talked portal needs. Quarterback, we've talked about a ton. Everybody understands it's a massive need for the Badgers. Colton Joseph is a guy we've talked about on this show a lot. I know it's somebody you've talked about. What are your thoughts just in general on Colton Joseph? Maybe pros, cons, what that fit look like here? And is that a realistic target for Wisconsin?
Yeah, Ryan, obviously some of this stuff over time just kind of gets talked about and thrown out there, like you said, and you've spoken on it on this amazing show. Look, I think that it's a touch, not crazy early, right? Because things officially open next week. But as we see, there are new big entries every day. So a touch early to give kind of how I might really feel and things of that nature. But what I will say is it's a player that would make a lot of sense. I think that he's got pretty good size. I love his numbers, his potential. Obviously, if you've kind of been following, I know some of our great fans have, you see, he's even gone back and forth a little bit with a couple Badgers on social media. So I think that there's some true maybe potential there. If that were to happen, I would love the fit. I also would love it from a sense of, hey, he's got a couple years left, right? I believe, at least 2 there. But let's say you ball out as a member of the Badgers, that also can open things up the following year for one of the young guys that you've kind of got growing right now. So there's a lot of reasons where you're not handcuffed to, hey, if he ends up here and he's good enough next year, but not great to go to the league, you don't have to just get another 1-year rental, right? You've got some time there. But otherwise, I know there is some young talent in the room. So I like that name, Ryan. I think that Wisconsin's obviously a school that has been linked there. Florida State, I've heard another ACC school or two kind of mentioned, but like I said, Florida State, Anthony Colandrea from UNLV. There's now kind of some buzz there. So those are just some things to track. But I would certainly say that he would be, if he ended up in Madison, a phenomenal fit from everything that I've heard and kind of checked in on so far.
Yeah, I've heard Florida State as well there. It's going to be interesting. You hear a lot of names with a lot of quarterbacks, though. It is that time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this on quarterbacks, because I get a version of this question, and I've talked about it on my show, but I'm curious what you think. David Frank asks, it's going to be hard to sell the quarterback spot. I almost want to ask you this in general, man, because I think a big part of guys like Eugene Hilton Jr. and Dylan Jones leaving, and the reason I don't really blame them for leaving is because the offense has been bad. If you're a receiver, you could certainly stay here and it could be a lot better next year if the quarterback stays healthy. Or you could just look at an Oklahoma or wherever in Indiana and say, well, they're already proven they can be successful. I think you extend that to a lot of portal targets this offseason. How do you sell outside of just we're going to up the amount of money we offer? How do you sell this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think in a lot of senses it's fair. I think that it's going to depend on a couple things. Obviously, you mentioned the money aspect, so I don't need to delve too much into that. People understand that, but look, I think it depends on what you are most looking for. Okay, that is honest from being in the trenches a little bit and trying to speak with people on all sides of things. But if you are really just looking for a chance to get an opportunity to play in a great conference, very well supported by fans, you'll be taken care of NIL wise, and to kind of put yourself on display, like there are a ton of minutes and snaps and opportunities, right? If you need to be, kind of guaranteed, I need to throw for X yards, or we need to see, passing this many times, abandoning the run game, any of that stuff, like probably not looking for the exact right guys, but there's a middle ground there. And I think that that's what's going to be super important. I also think that it's going to be really, really important. And I'm just going to name a few random position coaches just at positions I see being active. Kenny Guyton, Jordan Reed, Jeff Grimes, Luke Fickell, like these players need to trust their visions and what they're talking about. And I think what is fortunate is, from my experience talking with recruits, getting to know some of the staff, a lot of these guys can build trust and make relationships pretty quickly. That's a good thing, because you've heard Fickell talk about it a little bit. You've certainly heard like a guy like Greg Gard in basketball talk about it. It's a little bit like speed dating. You can't do as much relationship building, because if you're just focused on that, these guys are going to go elsewhere because you're going to get lost behind a little bit, Ryan. So it's a balancing act. Obviously, that a lot has to be planned out, we'll say, before things officially open. That's just the way of the world right now, the way that it's going to go for any school that wants to keep anybody or make some plays. So it's kind of a long-winded answer to say it truly depends on the player. That is just based on really getting to learn this portal a little bit. But I still think there's a lot to sell, because you never fully got kind of the vision of the offense. Obviously, it does come down to execution. That is on players and staff, but also you never got to see a lot of those top guys be healthy either.
Yeah, I think you hit on something that I've talked about. This staff does a really good job of building relationships. That's not hyperbole. I hear that from a lot of people, a lot of coaches, both in the recruiting department, in the strength and conditioning department, and in the actual coaching staff, do a really good job of building relationships, which is a huge part of this. And then you hit on two other big things that I think people overlook a little bit. Money matters. If you're willing to pay more, that makes the world go round in a lot of places, not just college football. And then the other part is you can be a starter in the Big Ten at Wisconsin. That's a big deal. If you can offer somebody a starting Big Ten spot and all the other things that come with playing in Madison, playing in Camp Randall, playing in the Big Ten, the exposure of that's a big deal. Those are two big selling points. Do you think, and I like that you went to the speed dating component of it. Another thing I've talked about recently, man, it feels like you're always going to have a few more misses in the portal than high school, just because you can't establish the full relationship with players. I'm putting you on the spot here. If we both agree you need several pieces on offense, right? The number I threw out was like maybe 7 starters. How many guys do you actually have to bring in to hit 7 starters? Because you don't bat 1,000 in the portal. Nobody does.
No, you don't. You don't. No, that's not a Wisconsin thing. Legitimately, nobody does. I
Mhm.
mean, even some of the big time schools that I'm just thinking of huge transfers that have a big year. I don't know, like maybe Will Howard at Ohio State a year ago, or a lot of these quarterbacks. To be honest, you also see some guys that you maybe brought in that just end up being depth pieces, if that. So I think, man, you'd probably need to bring in 11 or so, like at least. I am being a little bit conservative with
No,
that,
I
just
think you're right.
but just based on that number, right? Because you still need to bring. Okay, you bring in the high school class, a smaller class, but you want to retain what you had. You still got the defensive side of the ball. You're not going to hit 1,000. Now, I will say something I've learned, Ryan, and I love this question. Like, I like you're asking me some off the cuff, some that I truly believe in, and I think that this would be kind of an MO and part of the focus for staffs is looking at games like common opponents and how these guys do at this level, at this stage, because I think they've got to find a balance of getting either, productive power conference guys. They're usually not necessarily leaving unless it's just to kind of jump for the ultimate payday or a championship, right? You look at these guys, it's a lot of guys with potential or guys from smaller schools. So then if these smaller schools had a chance to play, I don't know, a Wisconsin or a Minnesota or Oklahoma State, Iowa State, just throwing out some random power conferences in kind of that non-con. How'd they do? Did they seem ready for the moment? Do they like the role? Because you're right, there is still really a ton to sell. And yes, of course, Ohio State and some of these other schools will get kind of the limelight, but I still think Wisconsin is just a true, like a not just 6 or 7, but like 8, 9 win season away from kind of getting back to a lot of that relevance that we're so used to in terms of kind of the national scope.
Well, and to your point, Colton Joseph played Indiana out of conference, ran for 160 yards, like really showed at least the athletic tools there. I think it's a really good point. Last question on quarterbacks, and we're going to take a break, then get your questions, some hoops talks. Do you think, and again, just at the end of the day, when the dust kind of settles on this portal season, do you think Badger
Mhm.
fans will be happy with what happened at the quarterback spot? Do you think they're gonna feel good about it? Like, what's your gut tell you? And I'll tell you right now, my gut tells me I think they will be. I'm gonna be honest. I've said that pretty consistently. I do think the combination of the need, the exposure, the playing time, the NIL, which I think is gonna be there. I do think Badger fans are gonna be
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised with what happens. But what does your gut tell
Yeah.
you?
And you're not putting me, on a spot to make the prediction or anything. So I will say, based on the need and just obviously knowing that this staff and recruiting department and everybody understands how big of a year it is, I think I would say so, Ryan. I think so. Now, you can't guarantee that whatever player they might get in January ends up being 100% healthy through October, right? But obviously, in terms of just the sheer addition, what that looks like, and the potential in the program, I've got faith in them. I do. You're not going to hit 1,000, and I'm sure there will be some of these spots. Maybe you wish you had a couple guys from last year, but QB, I would think so.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Although people in the chat are a little trepidatious, which listen, Badger fans have been burned the last couple of years on some spots, so I get it. We're going to take a quick second here. We're going to back talk some hoops with Nick Osen, plus some of your questions, your comments. That's coming up next. Locked On Badgers. Always appreciate everybody tuning in. Always appreciate the opportunity to talk to Mr. Nick Osen over at 247. Go check out his work. Today's episode brought to you by our great friends over at Gametime. Listen, if you want to get together, and we're going to be doing that at the end of this month, we're going to do our Locked On Badgers basketball meetup, Ohio State. Get those tickets on Gametime. Gametime is your path to get to the places that you want to get to in life, with people, with friends, with family, whatever it is. And additionally, the World Cup is coming to North America for the first time since 1994. 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive. Let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's where Gametime comes in. Easy user interface, best prices, no hidden fees. Tickets emailed to your phone. It's as easy as microwaving nachos, man. It's as simple as that to get the tickets that you need to get. And I mean, that's about all I cook, right? Is using the mic. So I know how that works. And I know how Gametime works. Those two things in my corner. What else do I need in life besides friends like Nick Osen? Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets. every match, concert, event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, download the app, make the account, use code Locked On College for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Gametime. Nick, let's talk some hoops really quick, and then I would love if you have the time to get into a couple questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will be, folks. I generally am able to get to that meetup that Ryan always throws with everybody that can come through. So don't know the details yet, but count me in, sir.
Dude, we always do. But we don't even ask you. We just count you in. We check the box. We don't even send you the letter. We say yes, RSVP, Nick Osen. Let's talk hoops, man. So big picture, I want to throw up one of the questions we got on Discord about the hoops. And this is kind of a general question, but Dominique just asked, will they turn it around for Big Ten play?
Yes. I mean, I think I don't blame anybody for that question. Obviously, you would have liked to have been at least, probably 10-2 at this point, looking at 8-4. But I've been fortunate to be around the program a little bit, obviously getting to just about every game, watching closely. I think that Villanova game really should have been a win, or you could at least make that argument. Like, they played better basketball late. You take care of business as expected this last week. I think things are kind of gelling a little bit better, especially on the defensive end. Guys are getting healthier. So I expected they're not getting any favors with Purdue when you kind of open again. But we've also seen a lot of times the Badgers play some great games against the Boilermakers, especially at home. So I would say so. I think I've kind of looked, and I think double-digit wins in the Big Ten is still very doable. I think you're going to have to get that, obviously, to reach the NCAA tournament. And I think it's a tournament team. I love that Coach Gardner. I bet you'd like this too, Ryan, as we're both fans of his game. I like that Gard and the Badgers went to Zach Kinziger a little bit last week. I think that he is someone that can help the team this year.
Yeah, I love Kins. I've talked about it a bunch. I've seen him in high school. I know you have as well. I think he helps his team. Not to derail the point of this big picture question, because Kins doesn't necessarily dramatically elevate the ceiling, but I do think he gives you another shooter off the bench, which is going to help open things up. I like his team ability too. He understands where to be on defense. He's a high IQ player, even for a freshman. So I like him a lot. In terms of like Dominique's question, will it turn it around? Turn it around means what? I don't think they're going to be quite as good as I thought the ceiling of this team could be. I just think Rapp hasn't been quite as good as I thought he would be. Now, he's still young, and it's still a lot of season left. I think the 4 is a little bit more of an issue, though, than I thought. And because of that, it hurts Nolan Winter, who needs another body down there to help. But I do think in terms of turnaround, can they be more consistent? Are there going to be less games like Nebraska? I do think that can happen. But I don't think it's going to be quite as good as I thought it could be, man. And I hate saying that because I love hoops. I love Greg Gard. I love this. Hoops are my favorite thing. But, dude, I do think this team has a lower ceiling than I initially thought. Am I crazy there?
No, you're not crazy for feeling that way, obviously, because of some of the recent games we've seen. I know that the guys would feel that way too, but I'm actually not sure, Ryan, that my ceiling has changed. I think my floor has changed a little bit, though, because I remember on this show, we talked about, I think the absolute floor, if guys stay healthy, is getting to the tournament, maybe winning a game. For the floor, the kind of the bottom line. Now I think you obviously see if the young guys aren't kind of rising to the occasion, or obviously deep shooting is not on one game, like it can be rough. And fortunately, I think that there were some adjustments to some of the game plan, even in this last game, some more post touches early, a lot more rim runs, cuts, back cuts, things like that. Terrific. I expect to see more of that going forward.
I'm going to hit a couple of these questions quick. Try to get into as much as possible. I always want to be super respectful of Nick's time as well, because he's got a lot going on. Hooger asks, in general, just rough estimate, how many guys do you think commit day 1, day 2 in the portal? Is it an avalanche, or is it more of a slow trickle?
It's a great question. I know it's one that we've got on the boards. It's a little different this year, right? Because like the last couple, and I've done a few portal cycles by now, but everything starts a little bit earlier. So I think, I guess out of your options, Ryan, I think it will be a slow trickle. Of course, you're going to see some action right away. It's going to happen everywhere. But I'd lean slow trickle while acknowledging it's not going to be like some slog. Oh, my gosh, it's January 10th. Where is any news? You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. I don't necessarily have a number, but that's what I would guess. Let's say, and I know this was one of the questions I read on your great Discord earlier, kind of setting the number for portal additions. I've probably had it between 22 and 25. Personally, I think it'll be kind of around there. So I would expect in those first few days, definitely at least 7 or 8.
Hit this one here. Ghost of Alan Amici, new member of the Discord, by the way. Definitely ask him about offensive skill position targets. Kind of more specifically, Nick, how many receivers, like what's the number do you think at receiver? What's the number do you think at running back? And I know there's stuff that you guys keep on your board, and that should be on the board, but just in general, numbers wise, what do they need to hit?
Yeah. Yeah. And Ryan, because you're such a valuable addition, really, of my work, even too, I will often, if it's on the board and we do a show a little later, I'll often say it on here. This is just, it's an area that it's so hard because you always want to be respectful of the process and the staff and all of that. But in terms of numbers, I think by my math, you need at least 4 receivers, right?
Yeah.
You've got Brooks and Henry slated back as of now. Legree and Tabuteau set to come in. That's like 4 Scally guys. And you don't want any less than 8, any less. So I think at least 4, maybe 5 even.
I think the number I put at receiver, man, is 5 to 6. And it's only because those 2 freshmen, I think we both liked him. I actually like Legree a lot. And he's a guy I've liked for a long time, but you don't want to count on those guys necessarily to play right away.
Right.
And if let's say you bring in 4, which I think your initial number is a good one, but let's say 1 or 2 of those guys don't hit. Let's say one of them is maybe a Jaden Ballard who just doesn't quite find his flow in Madison. I think you almost need 5 or 6 just to
It'll probably end up being 5. That's not, official report or anything. That's just kind of my math. But you make a great point. And I think, you're right. You need 5 or 6 that you can rely on. Now, I am of the belief that Tabuteau actually is somebody that can play right away. But obviously, Brooks kind of has a clear-cut role. Henry is great in his role, but obviously he's not going to be your, outside X going for 80 catches for 900 yards. So I think you probably need, man, if you can get 2 big-time guys, great, but probably 1 absolute big-time, 2 guys you can trust as starters. And then I am still a fan, whether people kind of disagree or not, because I know it's a win now, but I still love getting players with multiple years of eligibility. So if you're able to get like I don't know, I just have seen this play out so much in 4 years doing this, like a 4-star guy in the class of 2025 maybe just didn't pan out super early, and then somebody that's just kind of showing flashes. To me, that'd be a really nice class, Ryan. I really believe that.
No, I like that too, because I think that helps bridge consistency. I think it helps create some veteran presence in rooms where you can carry it over from year to year. I really like that too. Really quick on the receivers, and man, I always run out of time before questions with you. I'm hoping to get in a couple more questions.
Oh, we got a few more, dude, for sure.
I love it. Henry and Brooks, do you think either of those guys can be a starter for you next year? So I really like Chris Brooks' skill set for what he is. He's physical. He's good size. I think he has really good hands. He just doesn't run great. And then Henry's pretty explosive. I thought he took a big jump last year. Could Henry be your starting slot next year, for example?
I'm going to go with the first question you asked, just kind of having them together. Yes, one of them can be your starter. Because I love what you said about Brooks. He actually impressed me with his hands at times, because he'd probably tell you himself, his best trait is the blocking. He's physical, but he has had some actually better moments than I really kind of expected at times. I think that Coach Reed had great things to say about him. I think it was last spring. Those proved to be clairvoyant. So I certainly, I think you'd love to get like 2 new starters in the mix, but I don't have an issue if one of those guys is in that top 3 or 4, Ryan, at all.
I love it. All right, a couple questions here. I want to ask you this, man, because you always have a really good attitude. Tony just asked, have you ever had a bad day in your life?
Man, it's nice to genuinely laugh. Tony, I appreciate it. I had seen that question. Dude, I really don't think so. Because, I mean, obviously I'm not going to lie to you guys. Obviously nothing is perfect, but to me, life is made up of moments. And so there have been many, many days, especially high school, early college, what have you, like tough moments. But man, to me, if you're above the ground, you're rocking, friends, family, partners, life is pretty good.
Man, I love it. This one from David Frank. Oh, sorry, we already asked that one. Hooger, couple questions. We got a couple questions that I didn't start about the offensive line coach, but also new cornerbacks coach coming in. Really quick thoughts on those two guys. I know you've talked about you were able to sit down with Mateos with a couple people, the offensive line coach from
Mhm.
Arkansas. Thoughts on the two staff additions here?
Yeah. So, with O line first, I want to say that I really liked Coach Blazik. I thought that he had some really, really great relationships. I know we've talked about that. To me, this was just a sense, and we kind of talked off air, like it was just a chance for Grimes to get like his guy. So there's a great trust there, and in the opportunity, Ryan, to sit down with him, I came away impressed. I think he's very confident. I think he really trusts his work, and you can just feel the passion emanating a little bit just about kind of O line work, which I think is awesome. And just in terms of actual numbers, I that's funny. I think I think that he's confident for good reason. And corners coach, I think we'll probably get the opportunity to speak with him, which would be awesome. But I actually have a little bit of familiarity, not necessarily with him, but with his work and some prior connections. He's been at Iowa State the last couple of years, so I checked in with some of my contacts there, gave a couple reports on the board. I think he's going to be a nice addition. I want to say that first and foremost because he brings a lot of different experiences, Ryan. Obviously, he had a couple years in the NFL. I'm not sure how much he played, but he was there. He's been a high school coach at one of the best programs in the country. Then he got obviously opportunities, corners coach at a big time program at LSU. Then he was doing actually offensive work, I think, with wideouts with the Cyclones, and they had an amazing receiving core there too. So I like that a lot. And I also want to give the program credit. I love adding this new addition of secondaries coach because you're kind of creating another position, which I don't think you can necessarily have enough bodies in some of those areas.
And that's what a lot of big time programs have done, right? They've loaded up on
Mhm.
coaching talent. You got to get good coaching talent. You can't just throw bodies in there, but I think it really helps player development. You can establish more reps with more individualized attention. I think it's like, listen, we talk about this in high schools and in elementary schools a lot. Teacher to student ratio. Generally the
Yeah.
more you have the students, the better off you are. Again, you got to get good ones, but it makes sense. Nick, man, man, there's so many here again, but I'm gonna let you I promised, let you go here. Any last thing that we should have got into that you wanted to talk about that you wanted to hit on? I always like that these shows are
What time
collaborative.
we got?
Me.
Let's take two more. Let's take two more questions.
So here's a good
I'm
one
in
right
if
here.
you're in because I'm liking this base.
Well, I will go forever. That's the problem. We had a good question here, and I just had it up. I dropped it. But who is the edge guy that breaks out next year? Is it
Oh, I
Cheek?
did see that.
Clayton? Is it maybe a guy like I don't know, one of the guys in last year's class, like a Leteju or someone like that? Who is the edge guy that breaks out next year?
Yeah, I'm not going to say Cheeks, and that's not a slight to him. It's because I think he's already quote unquote broken out a little bit, right? We've seen some of his potential, at least in game action. So I look for somebody that has a little bit more untapped potential that maybe we haven't seen. And I would go with Nick Clayton. I'm not sure if he is officially signed and back type of thing, but like things I'd heard are really positive. I know that Matt Mitchell coaches him pretty hard, and he really likes that. I've gotten to know Clayton super well. Very fortunate with that. So man, I know you're super high on him. Our buddy Justin, Rajiv, we've all watched him. If that clicks, I mean, he is a bona fide NFL guy. I think you saw a little bit of what Matt Mitchell can do when he's got an older DP, a healthy Mason Riger. So I think the coaching development's there. I'm a Clayton fan, so that'd be my pick, man.
Yeah, I love Clayton. Locked On Badger alumni, Nick Clayton has been on the show. Absolutely love that
Yeah.
film. Who's the toughest guy to replace off this roster? That was another question I had up that I didn't get to, but is
Oh
it
wow.
Riger? Is it certainly you can look at a guy like for all the maybe the frustration at times, Ricardo Hallman played the second most snaps on the defense last year and has played a big chunk of ball for 3 years. Maybe it's a Daryl Peterson. Maybe it's who is the toughest guy to replace on this roster?
Dude, that's an awesome question. I didn't even see that pop up. Man, I think I would go with let me just ask with a caveat. Are we talking about as we sit here right now and there's still some unknowns? or we assume that all of these positions have been kind of filled with at least some portal names, and then you reflect on it.
Let's say as we sit now, where there still
Okay.
are unknowns, just because it's hard to kind of
Yeah.
speculate forward. Um, and I'll
I'm
tell you
gonna
right
give
now,
one on each side of the ball.
I love it.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say that actually,
Because
one on each.
I think it doesn't mean these guys can't be replaced. It's just talking about what we saw. Man, there are some potential ones. I'd probably go with Vinny Anthony on offense. I know that his numbers weren't what we all kind of all expected last year, but like we saw him break out in 2024, and we know you have to get a dude at wideout. So I think that'd be my pick there. Defensively, I'm not quite as clear cut as Hooger right there. I love the pizza in the picture as well, but I think I would say Mason Riger. I mean, that's a guy that's going to hear his name called very, 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 very likely in the NFL draft. Bo Dragon.
Yeah, dude, I think it's Riger, but I want to give a shout out because the other one that popped ahead right away, and I saw somebody in the chat with it. Man, Ben Barton's gonna be tough to replace. Winning gambler. Ben Barton put up there.
Yeah, he's a good player, dude.
Man, interior defensive lineman at his size with the way how hard he played this year. He blocked 2 kicks. Those don't grow on
Yeah.
trees, man. And I had somebody, Brian Smith, who came on the show early. He's like, that dude's an SEC interior defensive lineman. Nobody's talking about him. He's good, man. But it is Riger.
Mhm.
Riger was dominant this year. Offensively, actually, can I throw out the name Joe Brunner? I think if he, depending on what happens, right? We don't fully know, but Brunner's a guy who, in the midst of an offensive line that shifted around a lot, I think maybe got a little more flack than he deserved. Like it's hard to be a really good individual piece on offensive line that's shifting. Usually, if the offensive line struggles,
Mhm.
that's kind of struggles. But that's a guy who, for multiple years, has been a stalwart. He's been healthy, which on this offensive line has been really hard to find. I think if he had more consistency next to him at center and tackle, his film would have been better. I think he was probably trying to do a little too much to cover for people who were put into new spots. I think he's a solid offensive lineman, man, and it's hard
Yeah.
to.
Oh, he for sure is, and they'd love to have him back. And I'm just from my understanding, I'm not sitting here getting our great listeners' hopes up, but from my understanding, it's not for sure a foregone conclusion that he's
Mhm.
not coming back.
I would agree with that. Yeah, and Bo Dragon says a good quarterback would have had Vinny Anthony 1,000 yards easy. I think Vinny was a dude.
I love
man.
it. I mean, Vinny's my guy. Amazing family. Loved getting to know them. So yeah, dude.
Yeah, Vinny's a dude. Nick, let's wrap up here. Holiday season. We talked about your favorite Christmas movies, right? Your favorite Christmas movie. What's your number 2? What's your top 3? Let's finish on this
Yeah,
one.
yeah. I'd love to give a top three because I know I upset some people on the awards show, which I
You
actually
did.
felt bad about. I told my family about that. So number one is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. That is one A. But if I could have one B, it'd be Elf, and then one C, three, whatever you'd like to call it, Home Alone. And I'm not sure there's one that I've watched more than that. That tends to be one that I watch every year.
Hooger, by the way, if you're listening on the podcast, says he lied last time. Don't listen to him. It's really hard to pick. There's some really amazing Christmas movies. For me, it's Home Alone. Home Alone number 1. Can I tell you, it's the magic of it. It's about family. The theme music to Home Alone is incredible. It sets the tone. It
Mhm.
sets throughout. The old man who's the shoveling the snow and is just this kind of omnipresent figure throughout the movie as like he's kind of like wise old Saint Nick. He's kind of like a villain for Saint Nicholas in the movie itself. I think it's incredible. Incredible character actors everywhere. Phenomenal movie. Home Alone's number 1 for me. Number 2
It's a
is
great pick.
it's so good, and you can watch it with kids. That's the other thing really quick. National
Mhm.
Lampoon has a few moments where if you have a 6-year-old, you might I mean, it's fine, right? It's fine, but Home Alone's pure throughout. Then I go National Lampoon, which is a
Oh,
classic,
nice.
incredible, and then I'm probably going Home Alone 2. Going back to New York.
Okay.
I think those 2 movies are incredible, man. They're great for kids. The music in both is perfect, and I don't think the second I don't think the second, even though it's reusing a lot of bits, I think it's original enough where you still get into it.
I agree. I agree. It's not number one to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not the same as that first one because that first one is kind of magic. But it is still good. You know, it's funny. The times Vivi and I have been wrapping presents or something going into Christmas, like Home Alone 2 would be the one on TV. It's like AMC, dude. I'm not kidding. 3 different times we tried, but yes, great stuff. I love Christmas. One of the few things I would really ever put in the same level as sports.
K Brown, what is your classic? What are your classic ones? And guys, throw yours in here too. Running with Jason says Die Hard, Jingle All the Way. Jingle All the Way is kind of underrated, by the way. That is a fun Christmas movie if you haven't seen it. Home Alone is so good. Trading Places is a phenomenal movie. I don't know if that's really a Christmas movie though. Have you seen Trading Places, Nick?
I don't think I have.
Phenomenal movie. We got to watch.
Have you seen Four Christmases?
Yes, I have seen Four Christmas, which is good. Four Christmases is good.
It's pretty funny.
I've also seen really quickly, and this is a different vibe, but Krampus, I enjoyed the kind of.
Okay, I've never seen that one.
It's kind of a Christmas horror movie, but I enjoyed that as well. But Home Alone's the way to go for me, and National Lampoon for Nick. Nick, man, as always, you are incredible. Thank you for being a part of this community. I always talk about this. This is like a community that we built, and that you're a part of that. And I think we're better because you're a part of it. And I appreciate that about you, man.
I appreciate you, brother, a ton. You know that. Thank you, guys. A fun Friday night show. I'm just, for our fans on the board, going to get back to the writing a little bit and a late night movie. But Ryan, quick idea, man. Next year, week before Christmas or so, assuming all this portal schedule stuff stays the same, before your award show, we could even do a 30, 40-minute show just with holiday, Christmas talking discussions. Maybe a little lockdown get together would be fun.
Dude, we'll do a Christmas movie show. I mean, I could do 40 minutes on Home Alone itself. And like I'm telling you, I have so many theories and thoughts on it. So yes, lock it in. Let's do it. Let's commit to it. I love it.
Go.
On Wisconsin. Appreciate everybody tuning in. He is Nick. I am Ryan, and we will definitely talk to you. I'll talk to you tomorrow, I'm sure, but we'll have Nick on again at some point soon for sure.